So today, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about the truth about living with family, the ups, the downs, and the unspoken rules. So what today is: honest stories, practical wisdom, better questions. What today is not, and this is important that you know, we're not going to offer you a perfect solution. We just don't have one because it's as different as every person in this room. It is not one size fits all, and there is no pressure to decide anything today. This is information for the future. You know, as I was preparing for this, I found some really amazing stats. And you may or may not know, we plan our seminars about a year and a half in advance. So right now, we're already thinking about 2027 and planning what we're going to do in 2027. So about a year and a half ago, I started noticing more and more of my clients were selling their homes to move in with a family member. So I started doing some research, and the numbers are pretty staggering. So in the early 70s, about 7% multifamily. And if you see 2021, that's the most stable numbers that I was able to find, 18%. 1 in 5 Americans is living in a multi-generational household. Now, not all of those are seniors, so let's be clear. Some of it is people whose children it's expensive. Have you noticed that housing is expensive? Yeah. And so a lot of families are choosing to move in together to shoulder those expenses. But a lot of what I'm seeing in my day-to-day work is seniors who are saying, I know that I know that I can't live on my own anymore, and this is what I want my family, this is what I want my life to look like on my day-to-day, is living with a family member. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The conversation is not difficult because families don't love each other. It's difficult because they do. You know, I think sometimes when we care so very, very deeply about each other, we don't want to hurt feelings, we don't want to say things that are going to be upsetting, and sometimes we don't want to do it because we don't want to deal with the immediate fallout. Has anyone ever put off a difficult conversation because you just don't have the emotional ability to deal with the fallout right then? Yeah, does that fallout go away? No. Does it sometimes get a whole lot worse? Yeah. Side note, there's a book called Crucial Conversations. If you're a reader, I love it. I was just talking to Amy about it recently. It's a great book about having difficult conversations. So I talked to, another reason why I feel like this seminar is very important is normally when I set up a panel, I know who I'm going to ask. I ask them. They say yes with enthusiasm. That was not the case for this panel. I have some really, really amazing panelists. And I have some panelists that told me no. And that was really interesting to me because this is really, really a touchy subject for some people. I talked to one person and she said, and she would have been perfect on this panel. And I said, I need you to come and have this conversation so that people know the right questions to ask. And she said to me, I can't do it. Mom made me promise to do this for her. I did it. I did it for 20 years, and I can't talk about it. That's hard, right? So so we honor that, right? I also talked to a family who the daughter, mom moved in with daughter. They renovated their home because mom has MS. And her mobility is not such that she could be here, but she had some great things to say, and it's been an incredible experience for her. She has absolutely loved it, and she wanted me to tell you guys that. So a lot of good, a lot of hard, but our panel today, we are just really, really thankful that they're willing to open up. We've got a box of tissues up here, and we may need to use it because hard things happen sometimes. So the truth is, every family has a reason for doing this. Every family needs clear expectations, and every family changes. So we're going to walk through those truths together with our panelists. And now, without any further ado, I'd like to invite my panelists to come up. Let's give them a hand, guys. All right, so first, And I do want to preface this with each one of our panelists just could have a talk on their own because their stories are so distinct. So ladies, if you don't mind, I would love it if for just right now, just tell us who you are and how long you have been living in a multi-generational home. For Carrie, your mom has passed, so how long did you do that? And then we'll get started with the panel. So Kim, take it away.
So my name is Kim Sims Kohler, and my mom, Mary Ellen, which I'll let her say her part too, but so I moved in 2017 when my dad was terminally ill into their home, and then stayed with her through till we got a home built that she could move into us. So we have been cohabitating since about 2017.
I'm Mary Ellen Sims, and again, my husband had terminal cancer, and after he passed away, then Kim moved in with me. And then when their house was fully built, they built it where I could move into a section of it that was separate. It's kind of a Jack and Jill arrangement. Okay.
Okay.
And so we've been living together since that time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hi. Hello. Sorry. I'm Cheryl, and I get the privilege of living with my cute little mom. Her name is Donna. She couldn't be here today, but she wanted me to tell everybody hello. So I have been living with my mom, or my mom has been living with me for about 2 years now after my father passed away, since 2024.
Hi. My mom lived with me 4 years and lived next door to me 4 years.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. You know, I keep trying with this font to get it big enough, and I just can't ever tell. So I'm going to read it to you. I'm sorry, it's kind of small. Truth number one, every family has a reason. So why are we choosing this? Love and responsibility, or maybe life has changed. Maybe someone needs a little bit more care. Sometimes it's a financial reality. And sometimes, as you'll see today, that there's a little bit of family tradition involved as well. So one of the things that struck me while I was preparing today is that no two families end up where they're at the same way. Some people are forced into a decision overnight. They've got to make it quickly. But before we talk about how to make multi-generational living work, I think we have to understand why some families choose this in the first place. So, Carrie, I'm going to start with you if that's okay. In just a minute or two, tell me a little bit about who moved in with who and what led to that decision. And I think looking back, would you describe it as a planned decision or a crisis decision?
So my mom moved in with us, which was by that time next door. It was kind of both. I think my husband and I both knew the eventuality of it, that would be what happened. After she got to where she really couldn't take care of herself, no matter how much she wanted to. And she was a pretty independent person. And of course, said those words, "I don't want to be a burden." And after the doctor was kind of like, she needs more care than she's getting. You going over 2 or 3 times a day, making dinner, not helping. And so my husband said, I'm going to make our house ready for Mom to move in with us. And I was out of town, and I said, just think about what you're doing and what you're committing to, because mom always expected to move in with us, and I knew that was probably what was going to happen, but I didn't want to impose that on Andy. But Andy was the one who said, no, this is what we're going to do. It's too stressful for her. It's too stressful for you. And so when I got home from the trip I was on, we started moving her stuff over, and I don't want you to think she lived by herself and had to do all her own things. My brother lived with her too, but his health failed and he had to leave. And so when he had to leave, that was about a 2 week to a month that then she moved in with us.
Yeah. Cheryl, your story started after the loss of your dad. So tell me about that conversation that you had with your mom. I know it was kind of several conversations put together. And as a reminder, Amy just reminded me, we do have several people with that need a little help hearing. So make sure you hold that microphone super close, because all of y'all are kind of quiet.
Well, I don't know if I'm quiet.
You are. Hold it.
It depends on who you ask.
I know it's really weird, but if you'll hold it right
Okay.
next to your chin, it'll pick you
All
up.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, my dad passed away in 2024, and my mom does not drive. My brother and I both live in Oklahoma. He lives in Bethany. I live in Yukon. So after my dad passed away, I brought my mom out here for a couple weeks, and she was adamant about going back to Missouri, which is 7 hours away. So with her not driving and me 7 hours away from her, I was like, Mom, this is against my we should not do this. You should not go back. You need to stay here. She was adamant about going. So I was like, okay, well, you go and we'll just do the best we can, basically. So she went back. She called me every night crying because she was lonely. She missed my dad. She missed me. She couldn't go anywhere. She was basically homebound. So after about a month of this, I was like, Mom. So I had to be the decision maker. Mom, you're coming to live with me and Tim. That's my husband. And she was like, okay. So she just needed me to say, you're coming. There's no questions about it. You're coming. So I want to say it's been great. It's been, ups and downs, but for the most part, it's been good. So I'm glad she finally took my advice and came and moved in with me. So
I love that. Good. Okay. Well, and I have to tell you guys, I love Kim and Mary Ellen because you will see over the course of this conversation how good their communication skills are together. Because if you can think about it for just a minute, it's hard to live with somebody, and they have navigated it beautifully. But Kim said when we were talking, she said, we're 9 years in. This has taken us 9 years. But they talk so eloquently, and I'm so excited. Kim, your family actually built a home with Mom in mind. What made you realize that this was a long-term solution for your family? And Mary Ellen, I'll give you your question now so you can be thinking about it. Would that be good? Okay. So from your perspective, what made you say yes to moving in with Kim and Heath? Okay, so you be thinking about that. And Kim, tell us a little bit about what y'all do.
So we're a little bit more unique in the sense that we have a family farm. That was a farm that my dad purchased very quickly out of high school. His dad had died when he was 13. So the fact that my dad was able to purchase that right out of high school without any help because of his hard work meant a lot to me. And so from that perspective, my parents, when they built their home on the family farm, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath because they had me, the only child. And so they didn't need anything more. Nobody came to visit, so that's the house that they built. And it was great. I had a bigger bedroom, but when it came to a point of looking to add my family into that home, it didn't work, and there wasn't a good way to add on. Some of the things we learned with my dad through his terminal illness was that their house was not very handicap accessible. You could take off the doors. You could turn the walker wheels on the inside, and still, there's this cabinet above the toilet, and you guys will all learn this, but there comes a point at which there's 2 or 3 of you in the bathroom trying to get up and get somebody around. And so we wanted to build a home that, because it was on a family farm and we have 1 child, we don't want to take up all of our farm with houses that we're not utilizing. So I wanted to build a house in mind that would not only take care of us in our current situation, but that our son could possibly use later on when he comes back to take over the family farm in the event he needs to take care of us. So I made sure that our bottom floor is all handicap accessible. We have tile on the bottom with the exceptions of her closet has carpet because she doesn't like cold feet when she's trying to get dressed, and I get that. but we live on a farm, so everything comes in. The other thing we did was I wanted her to have some private space. I didn't feel like it was right to ask her to move from a house that she had lived in for 38 years into a bedroom. She'd had her own life, her own house, her own things, and so I didn't want her to feel like she was in a Cracker Jack box. And so, having said that, though, it would not have been the house we would have built for ourselves when we were looking to build. But I'm glad we did it, but it does come with a financial consequence because it was more of a mortgage than what we probably would have had the other way. But looking back, if it prevents our son from needing to build a third home, that's great. So that's kind of where we came up with that. And we thought a long time on it before and looked at house plans while my dad was terminally ill, as my husband and I, and then also afterwards thinking what we needed that to look like. So if you're not going to purchase a home and you're building, especially if it's on family land, really think that plan out first and navigate it. Don't just rush into it if you have the time.
I love that. Well, and I think also this is something that you've seen in your family over and over. So you definitely fit into family tradition bucket. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, Mary Ellen, are you ready?
Yeah.
I want you to hold that. I want it to touch your chin. Yep, there you go.
Okay, ask your question again.
Okay. Your question is from your perspective, from a parent's perspective, what made you say yes to moving in with Kim?
Well, I'm not very good at living by myself anymore. When I was younger, Jim and I didn't marry until I was 30 years old at the time. And I thought I was pretty good at being independent. But after we married, I wasn't so independent. And my version of cooking for myself and doing things, I might go in there and fix one thing. I might cook a meat or I might cook a vegetable or something for dinner, but that was about it. And I wasn't good at doing things, just eating regularly or stuff like that. And so, I didn't really particularly want to live by myself, and I was pretty lonely after Jim passed away, except for when I was around family. And so it was just the natural thing for me to want to be with family. And so that worked out great for me, and I was really happy that they wanted to have me with them because I didn't particularly want to live by myself.
Yeah.
And the fact that they thought ahead to make their house accessible where it was handicap ready was a really smart idea, I thought. And the fact that it's a kind of an arrangement where what they did was take 2 bedrooms and make it into where it's kind of a living room, bedroom idea with a bathroom in between and a little area it has a closet and it has a little area where you could put a microwave and a refrigerator and other things in it. Makes it real accessible, and I'm not just right under their feet all the time. And if they need some privacy, and I have privacy too, so it makes it a really good arrangement. And I think it's real comfortable if that's where families can do that. If you're planning ahead, that if you can make that kind of an arrangement.
I love that. Thank you. I would like for each of you, so I'm going to read through the reason, some of the reasons again, and I want you to each think maybe your top 2 that really kind of, that you identify with for your situation. If there's something that I missed, you can definitely have a, option A, B, C, D, E, F, other. So, okay. So, all right. So I have love and responsibility, life changed, caregiving, so caregiving needs, financial reality, and family tradition. So we'll just go down the row and you can tell me a couple of the ones that you feel like, well, this is really what we feel like we resonate with.
I would say easily for us, it's family tradition. It was something my mom's mom, she had her mother live with her after she was widowed and after my great-grandmother had a son who had passed away of cancer. So they were both widows, they're both living by themselves, so it made sense for them to move in together. My grandmother had also taken care of her mother-in-law who had, she was an insulin-dependent diabetic back when that kind of first started. And so, her health was pretty rocky, and so she lived with them. I can tell you that my mom will tell you that was not a good experience. She did not like that grandmother living with her. She caused a lot of problems in their home. But my great-granny and my grandma got along very well, and then they added my great-granny's baby sister. That was her favorite, so she wanted her to stay with the daughter that would take the best care of her, not the other daughter who would put her in a nursing home. So my great-grandmother took care of not only her mother, but she also took care of her aunt who had Alzheimer's. And then on my other side, on my dad's side, I saw a great aunt who had been widowed in World War II, and she never remarried, so she lived with her parents on the family farm. She had a special needs brother who got meningitis when he was 8 that caused some some long-term brain damage, and so he didn't function at the same levels as he would have had he not had that. So she took care of her parents and then later took care of her brother until she passed away. And so for us, it was just something we had seen, and it was second nature to us. Now, having said that, I'm going to say my husband had never seen that before, and he actually comes from a divorced home. And so, at times that's a little bit of our challenge because he's never had to share his time before. He's never really had to share his space. So that is a little bit of an adjustment we have.
Mary Ellen, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just think that it is an adjustment on my son-in-law's part, and I appreciate the fact that he's willing to let me live in his home and gives me that grace. It's an adjustment for him, and yet he's able to see the need and is willing to do that.
Perfect. Cheryl, what would you say guided your decision? What was the motivating factor?
So probably need, but then also the love and responsibility, because my mom had really no one else but me and my brother, and it just made sense that she would come here and be with us. So yeah, I think probably the love and responsibility and the need.
Yeah.
Because she needed to be with us as much as we needed to be with hers.
So like a social need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotcha. Carrie, which ones resonated with you?
So I'm just going to say the love and responsibility is a given. My mom needed caregiving. She couldn't walk, she couldn't see, she couldn't hear without serious hearing aids, and she had macular degeneration very badly, and she was pretty much in a wheelchair by the time she moved in with us. And then the financial reality. So we contacted some of the visiting angels kind of things, and she just didn't have that kind of. She retired from the school system. I work for the school system. We all know how much that pays. So the financial responsibility was more than either one of us could handle, and so or even collectively. And so moving in was a financial necessity for her to get the care she needed. And we had this amazing lady at church who came for what Mom could afford and socially interacted with her and took care of her lunch, because I was there for breakfast, I was there for dinner. But I work full time still. And so Wanda was God's blessing, and she knows it. And we couldn't have done that without her, because Andy was still working full time at that time as well. Yeah. So even though I loved my mom dearly and she loved me dearly, the reality was why she needed to live with us.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say too, on ours, so my dad was very independent. He had been very healthy up until the point he was terminally diagnosed. My mom did have health problems. She is an insulin-dependent diabetic. She has now stage 4 kidney failure. She had stage 3 at the time. So from that perspective, if you look at the parent who's never had anything, never had a surgery, never had any health issue whatsoever, I just always planned that I would go check on my dad at his house and, make sure he had some food, watch some NCIS on the couch with him, and go home. And with my mom, that's a different reality. You know, she has highs and lows with her sugar. She needs more interaction. You know, she's not one to go outside of the home for a lot of interaction. And so if I had left her in her home, even though it was just an eighth of a mile over and I could see it from where we were going to live, I honestly would have worried myself to death about, you know, is she okay? Did she eat? Did she take the thing out that I fixed her? Because she'll tell you, I fix a plate and take it into her a lot of the time, because when I'm gone, I have these pre-made meals, and we may or may not get them out. We may just have a cosmic brownie.
You know, I think it's funny. We talked about cosmic brownies during our panel prep call a whole lot more than I anticipated. I think that was a first for me. Okay, so for those of you that are in our audience, I think this is a really good opportunity for you to just think and use your note paper in front of you. Obviously, we're going to take questions at the end, but you can take a minute and just think, like, which one of these things would resonate most with you? Which of these would motivate you to move in with a family member, make a change in your living arrangement? The next thing that we're going to talk about is, like we've seen, everybody has a reason for doing it. And now the logistics. Everyone needs clear expectations. Anytime that you get frustrated, I guess I would challenge you to think about a time that you got frustrated that it did not have to do with an unmet expectation. You were expecting something to happen one way and it didn't, and that was frustrating. And some of us pivot better than others, right? I will say, and what we say in my family all the time is, I'm very good at going with the flow as long as the flow goes the direction I told it to when I told it to go there. So I don't pivot well when the flow does not go my way, unfortunately. So, we've got a little bit of a mishap there. I don't know what happened. So you're just going to have to forgive me. Sometimes when we create these and then we put it on this platform, it messes up our text. So we're just going to be forgiving because we're all friends. So every family needs clear expectations. Long before move-in day, we need to talk about the living space, the division of expenses. So if you see, that was supposed to say division of expenses and it popped expenses down one row. So it's kind of overlapping. But the division of expenses, social expectations, that's what that next one was supposed to say. Privacy and family roles. All right, so we're going to talk a lot about that over the next little bit, and I just wish I had the opportunity to fix that for you, but I don't. So if you need to make a note of what that's supposed to say, it's division of expenses and then social expectations. All right. So almost every panelist told me some version of the same thing during our prep call. I wish we had had more conversations about this sooner. Not because anyone had bad intentions, everyone had very, very good intentions, but because some people assume things that are not, they're assuming different things about what's going to happen. So Kim, I'll start with you and then we'll follow up with Mary Ellen. But Kim, what expectations did you have that turned out to be completely wrong? And then I would love, Mary Ellen, for you to be thinking about the expectations that you had that maybe changed after you moved in. Okay? So Kim?
So I think probably for me, again, I'm very independent and my mom is very dependent. And, you know, a long time ago, somebody asked me when my husband and I first got married, because we got along really, really well. He traveled a lot. I would travel at times, and you know, somebody asked us, you know, how do you make that work? And I'm like, well, we're both independent people, and so we can do things separately from each other, and not, you know, have an issue with that. So I think, you know, even if I had married somebody that was dependent, that probably would have been a little bit harder for me, because I'm used to just kind of doing my own thing and not having to have that direct interaction. So probably the one thing that expectation-wise, I wish that I would have done, the truth in love, is maybe set some parameters, some ground rules for like what happens when we come home, how we interact with a young child. So we had a 6-year-old at the time. We're now like at 10, and you know, you've all had a teenager, so imagine having a teenager with a grandma, with a parent, and we're now all navigating this in this house, and she'll say, hey, have you heard from Colton today? And I'm like, no, I messaged him on Snap, and he's gone in the summers. So
He's 16?
He's 16, and
Yeah.
so he likes to work, and he's working in another state, actually. And so, but you need to have some ground rules, especially if you have a young family, to what that looks like, so you can have some personal time. You can bond with your child, and you can bond with your husband in that familial relationship, and also have that separate time for grandparents, like you would if you went to do something with grandparents. And that, I think the biggest thing for me is, as a child, we want to please our parent. And as a adult, you raised me, and you loved raising me, maybe not all the time, but most of it. And so you want to spend that time back with me.
I'm a joy and a delight.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
a big difference when it's Kim or Kimberly. Kimberly is not necessarily, it's my alter ego.
All right. So what changed for you, Mary Ellen? What expectations did you have to maybe bring into realignment?
Well, I was used to doing everything as a family, and so I had a hard time understanding that there were, and I should have known, but I didn't realize that there were times that they were going to want to do things separately from me. And being the grandmother, I always thought, we were going to do everything together. And that was not as easy for me to get used to that they're going to do things separate from me, and I'm not going to always be with them every time they go somewhere and do something. And it was hard for me to accept that there are going to be a lot of times when they're going to do other things and I'm not going to be included. And that was kind of hard for me. And sometimes I felt a little left out, but I learned to deal with it.
One thing related to hers I want to add is that if you're the spouse of the caregiver that's related to the person, you have to understand that the person in the middle is really, really torn. They love you as a spouse, and they love being a mother, but they also love being a daughter and want to be a good daughter. And so probably for me, that was the hardest thing, because I always felt like I wasn't pleasing everybody. And that was tough. So on either side, whether, if you're the person in the middle, the people on the other two sides, they need to learn to give you just a little bit of grace, because you're trying your absolute best to make everybody's life perfect. And sometimes you just want world peace.
I love that. Cheryl, you talked a lot about a really important aspect of this topic, and that is the division of expenses. So how did you have that conversation about who pays for what?
Well, I don't know that we ever had like a full-on conversation, which I suggest you do. But with my mom, it just kind of fell in place. So I pay our mortgage, and she pays our utilities. We split groceries, which works out perfect, because she likes to buy what she likes, and I like to buy what I like. So we just combine it and split it. So it has worked out. I do suggest, though, having that conversation from the get-go, like, okay, how do you want to do this? How should we split this? And she'll even occasionally, because I take her everywhere because she doesn't drive, so she will put gas in my car, which I don't expect her to do that, but she was like, you take me everywhere. You're like my taxi driver. And I'm like, okay. So she will put gas in my car like once a week. And so we have just kind of worked it out. I mean, which I don't suggest really to just work it out, but it has worked out for us. So we share a lot of the expenses in the household. So
I love that conversation. Carrie, and on that same note, you made some really good points that I would love for you to talk to us about the importance of being really purposeful in the financial side of things. So why don't you tell us about that?
So near the end of my mom's life, she had to have more care than either I or Wanda could give her, or Andy. And so she moved into a nursing home, and in that nursing home, they started talking about long-term care. Well, long-term care involves Medicare getting involved, and they do an audit of your mom's or dad's, or yours, finances, your bank account, your mom's bank account, the one that's coming to live with you or has been living with you. Well, when they did that audit, they then got back 5 years, and they got back with me and they said, she wrote you a check for a couple of $1,000s. And I go, yeah, in December. And she said, the lady said, well, why? And I said, well, because Mom, I would go get gift cards, and that's what Mom would give the grandkids at Christmas. She saved up for that every year. And then it was a couple other things. Well, then you spent she gave you $5,000. Yeah, because I went and bought her a lift chair and did that kind of shopping for her. She loved to go clothes shopping, and she also would give me gas money, but she didn't care about anything about going to the furniture store and buying a lift chair. So I did that. Well, it turned out that they said, well, we're going to press charges against you, Carrie, for fraud. And you'll be investigated under the abuse of elders for fraud. And I went, what? Because that would have never, and my mom was like, what? Because she paid for some things and I paid for some things, and it just was whatever. And I paid for most things because, once again, the whole retirement thing and teacher. But it was just blindsided us. Turns out we should have done something like a trust. She was like, well, do you have receipts for all that? And I'm like, no, but I'm pretty sure the Oklahoma City landfill does. And so that was a really scary time. What ended up happening was, because my mom did pass, she's calling me the day my mom died going, I need to talk to you more about this. I'm like, yeah, not right now. You can call me next week. And she did. And I said, okay, my mom passed. And she goes, well, then we won't pursue it. But you need to let your family know that this happened. My bank ended up kicking me out. So MidFirst said, see ya. And I went, what? And they were like, yeah, you can't bank here anymore. Okay. And so I had to change banks. It was kind of scary and just a little frightening, and would have been totally unnecessary if we'd have had those conversations and separated that out and kept receipts. My mom was the bookkeeper for the school. She was principal secretary, and she had all kinds of receipts. I'm still throwing away receipts. They're joining mine in the landfill. But I should have done something like that and known better, because she taught me better than that. But so yeah, keep receipts.
Well,
make those clear.
That's an important conversation to have, right? To the financial side of things, and how those numbers are going to be split up so that we don't run into something, and keeping really, really good record. I know that when my granny was alive, there was a lot of checks written for her care, and I obviously I got the rocking and the talking. I didn't get the financial side of things, so my turn will come, I'm sure. But I know that there's a lot that is involved with caretaking when it comes to the financial side of things, that we just are doing it out of. I know Carrie. I've known Carrie for years, and the thought that she would be doing something not right with her mother's finances is just not, even if you talk to her for 5 minutes, that that's not the case. But those record keeping, those conversations are so important. Kim, so you talked about realizing that your husband and your son still needed time, that was just for your immediate family. I want to talk a little bit more, because I felt like that during our panel prep, I felt like that conversation was really beautiful, and I'm sure difficult at the time. But tell me a little bit about how you navigate that with your immediate family.
Well, again, I think it goes back to we came from two very different, distinct backgrounds. My husband was raised by his dad. His dad was not a hands-on dad. His dad was gone a lot. And so from that standpoint, he saw his grandparents somewhat meddling in his dad's life because they would say, hey, you need to be with your kids more, or you need to do this more. And so from that perspective, he felt like living close with the grandparents, because they lived in a ranch in northwest Oklahoma, and they had kind of family compounds. Everybody lives in the middle of a big ranch. And so Grandma and Grandpa knew everybody that went in and went out everywhere, and his grandma maybe was a little bit too much in the business. So that was a big contention to begin with, was us just living on the family farm in a different residence. So then you add Mom to that equation, and she's there. And my mom's a teacher. She's still teaching. This is going to be her last year. She's going to retire at 81. So
yeah, that's a good thing to clap for. Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out social-wise what we're going to do with this newfound time, because right now I say something about it, and she says, well, I talked to my teacher friends, and I'm like, but they're not going to be there next year. But having said that, I think for us, it was just trying to help him understand a little bit more where I came from. We don't have a big family. My mom has a sister. She lives in a foreign country. The rest of my mom's immediate family has passed away. She just had the one sister and her mom and her dad. For me, if Mom isn't with us on a holiday, who is she going to spend it with? She fell and broke her hip, maybe a year or so after my dad passed away. Now, I will tell you, if my husband and I had done the exact same thing, we would have broke our hip. It wasn't an age thing. It was just a circumstance thing. But she's not as mobile as she used to be. And so, my husband might want to go someplace for Christmas that I just don't think that Mom can make the trip for. And so we've had some tough conversations, even within our own house and within my family unit of my husband and I, on him wanting us to make a tradition before our son's out of school. And to me, I just don't know that I can do that yet. And so, again, it goes back to that everybody needs to have grace. And sometimes we probably need parents to let us have a little bit more of that freedom and say it's okay. Going back to the teacher thing, one of the things that we've had an issue with is, of course, she's really great for helping with homework when Colton needed it, which was good because she was home before I was. But at the same time, early on, we had a little bit of co-parenting that included 3 of us and not just 2 of us. And
that is, I'm so glad you went there, because that's really what I want you to talk about, is having an additional parent in the house.
Yep. So I understood it was coming from in love. My husband, not so much. And so, and I'm sure Colton really enjoyed 3 people trying to tell him what it was he needed to do. But so again, I think that the big underlying deal is that, I had to tell Mom maybe more than once, you had your chance to raise me. Hopefully you did a good job doing that. You need to let me raise Colton. And things are different. I'm going to tell you that by the time Colton has kids, even if he had kids right out of high school, raising his kids are going to be far different than it was raising him, and much more different than it was raising me. And so, we've really given, my mom was very much a helicopter mom. I made a college decision based on the fact that I knew that she wouldn't necessarily want me to go far away from home. So I've taken a much different approach with Colton and said, hey, wherever it is you want to go in life, you go. Don't worry about how that affects us. You do you. I think she's really questioned. Colton is 16, and he has spent 3 summers now in Illinois and traveling with people. And my mom will be like, how well do you know these people? I think she thinks they might be axe murderers. But anyway, having said that, again, you have to have that respect. I think we are definitely going to see a lot more people in my generation where we have that younger family with a parent that is joining in. And so if you have kids that have young families and you're considering that, really take that into account and think about the fact that you wouldn't have if you went to your parents for advice, you wanted them to give it to you, but you didn't necessarily want them to do that and co-parent with you.
Yeah. I think, and that enter the cosmic brownie conversation. We heard that there was Mary Ellen deals lots of cosmic brownies at the house.
Yes. So if Colton wants bad food, candy, whatever, Granny keeps him fully loaded with cosmic brownies, candy bars, Rice Krispie treats.
But that's so good. That's so good that even living in the house all the time, she still, because you've set those clear boundaries, she is still grandma and you are still mom.
Yeah, and that was one thing with the way we set her portion of the house. She had a futon, so if Colton wanted to go over there and spend the night at grandma's, he could technically do that.
I love that.
He goes over there and they make popcorn together. She has a little convection oven that sits, we took like the other walk-in closet and made it like a kitchenette. And so she's got like a microwave and a Keurig and a convection oven. And so if they want to make true brownies from scratch or they want to make a birthday cake, they can do that over there. So I wanted it to be, I wanted it to have them to have their special time too outside of ours. And because my son had already seen my dad pass away because he had been in the house, we had been in the house. My husband worked 7 days a week on call at the time. So when my dad was very sick, Colton lived with us over at my parents' house. And so since he'd already seen my dad pass away, we wanted to give him his own private space because they're very different at this point. He listens to much different music than my mom does. Colton probably doesn't want to listen to her practice her singing for church on Sundays, and she probably doesn't want to listen to some of his music choices. So he actually lives in a bonus room above the garage. So he has some extra space himself in case he needs to remove himself from that situation as well, with a little bit of a living area.
Awesome. All right, Cheryl, your daughter said something to you, and I want you to share that with us.
So I have older children, but we are very close. We've been close their whole life. My husband worked out of town a lot. So basically, I was a single mom. He was there, like, when he came home, he was very involved, but during the week, it was us. So we're very, very close. And we did lots of things together. We still do, but when my mom first moved in with us, it was a lot of my time was spent with my mom. She was very sad because my dad had passed away. And I realized that my dad was actually my mom's security blanket. So she really relied on him for a lot of who she was. So when he passed away, I became that person, her security blanket, which I'm okay with. And, you know, we made it through the first year and everything. But then one day I was talking to my daughter, who I did lots of things with. And she said to me one day, "Mom, I just need my mom." Because when we would do things, usually my mom, her grandma, would come along. And she told me, she was like, "I just need you, Mom. I just need my mom." And I was like, okay, yes, you do, you know. And so we have lunches together now. We make a point to go to dinner together, and it's just me and my daughter. I also have a son, and we have lunch once a week. And, you know, because I still feel like even though they love their grandmother, they just need me and my husband sometimes too. Even though they're adults, they're grown, they have their own children, they still need us. So I really had, that was a hard thing, just for her to tell me, "I just need you, Mom. I just need my mom," you know. I was like, okay, all right. So we had to make a change there, and I had to have the conversation with Mammy, that's what they call her. Me and Natalie are just gonna go to lunch, or me and Natalie are just gonna go to dinner. And that was hard for my mom to realize too, and it hurt her a little bit that she wasn't gonna always be invited. But now she's okay with that, because we did have a conversation about they need me too, you know, and kind of like you, Kim, I felt like I was stuck in the middle because I want to make everybody happy. I want to make my mom happy. I want to make my husband happy. I want to make my kids happy. I want to make my grandkids happy. So I felt kind of stuck too in the middle. But after conversations, now my mom realizes you do need to do those things with your kids too. So
Yeah. Carrie, are there any misalignment of expectations that you felt like, I wish we would have talked about this sooner so that our expectations would have been in alignment and it maybe would have made things smoother?
Just a few. So I think my mom had this picture of idyllic dinners together and just sitting around and chit-chatting and things like that. And my son had gone to college by the time my mom lived next door even. And my husband and I ate dinner on the couch and we watch a lot of like murder mysteries from Britain, like BBC kind of thing, BritBox. We watch a lot of that kind of stuff. And some documentaries, neither which my mom likes or liked at all. My mom was the game show person. I hate watching game shows. Hate them. And so there was just, this is what she wanted. She wanted dinner together and then TV time.
Hold it a little closer for
Oh,
me.
sorry. She wanted dinner together and then TV time and then go to bed or talking time. And Andy and I came home from a full day of work and we wanted dinner where we were comfortable and veg out on TV and go to bed. That was what we had gotten used to. And then...
Sorry, guys. I think that's the last one. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And then... So we should have had that conversation, or I should have learned to like game shows. I mean, one of those two. Though I had tried for years. My mom expected those things and was very disappointed when she didn't get those things and wasn't good at telling me. She wanted me to figure out why she was upset, and I'm very, very bad at figuring out why anyone's upset. You have to tell me. I'm just not perceptive at all. And so that was a misalignment of expectations. Where we did align was church. I mean, my mom loved going to worship. She loved God, raised me to love God, but she also loved the people. And we have a tall, really, really tall elder that's like 6'6", and really big man. And it just tickled her to death when he would go down on one knee and talk to her. And she just loved
eye to
him.
eye, right?
Eye to eye, yeah. His eye to her eye level. He might have even had to bend down then, but because she wasn't a real tall woman. So she loved being there. That was a huge social thing for her. So that was easy. But the understanding, if we'd have had some of these conversations and I could have built some of that understanding in of, hey, I do need time with my daughters to go out to eat, and that doesn't necessarily always going to include you, but sometimes will. And the amount of time she wanted me to just take her to see her sister, who was also homebound living with my cousin. We just didn't have those conversations before. So having them after she was already in the house was harder than it would have been, because my mom was a very reasonable person. If we'd have just had those conversations before, then she would have had the right expectations. I would have had the right expectations, but with a little bit of grace to know that things are going to come up we don't even know, kind of like that money thing. Things are going to come up we don't even know what's going to come up, and so there needs to be just a realizing that it's not just going to be easy. I think my mom just expected it to be easy because she and I had a very easy relationship, and she loved Andy. And they had a good relationship, but it was a whole lot harder than it was easy. In fact, it took me quite a while to realize that she was making jokes. Other people thought she was funny, and I would be sat there going, I was just like aggravated a lot of the time, and I'm ashamed to say. But after a while, I got to where I was like, oh, she's being funny. And she was funny. But usually I had to take my cues from other people who laughed.
Maybe
and
a
then I remembered.
little too close, maybe.
Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
remembered how to laugh. And that was good. So.
I love that. Well, I want, so before we move to our final truth, I want you to each, with your notepad, I want you to finish this sentence. Don't move in together until you've talked about what do you think your hard conversation would be. If something were to happen and you would need to move in with someone, don't move in until you've talked about blank. All right? So think about that. Truth number 3. Every family changes. You know what's interesting is as we were doing our panel prep, I asked them, did any of you have an exit plan? Did anyone, before you moved in together, did anyone have an exit plan of, okay, this is the code word. This is what we say when it's not working. We need to have a conversation, and this is plan B. And unanimously, they said no. They entered into this without an exit plan. But after we talked about it, they were like, oh, probably should have had an exit plan. And I think that's part of being good communicators with each other, but being comfortable having conversations to move you through when things change. Because as we know, the only thing that you can expect to stay the same is that things will change, right? That's how end of life is a series of changes. So what's right today may not be right in 5 years. Give yourself permission to reassess. Keep talking, even when it's hard. I might say especially when it's hard. Plan for the what if, and give each other grace. So just because somebody's frustrated in a moment doesn't mean that they're going to be frustrated tomorrow. How many times have you just needed to sit and feel something for a minute and then you move on to the next feeling? I know that for myself. When I get really frustrated, I know that I need to sit in that frustration for just a minute and it'll be okay. And so my husband gives me some grace to know, oh, she's going to be real mad for just a little bit and then she's going to pick herself up and be okay and figure out a solution. So giving each other grace with how you handle difficult situations is important too. So one of the biggest lessons that I took away from listening from each of you is that moving in together is not one decision, it's a series of ongoing decisions. Needs change, health changes, family dynamics change. So let's talk about what happens next as we think about how we're going to close this out today. Carrie, at what point did helping become caregiving?
Pretty much the day she moved in. So yeah, that
shift happened immediately.
Yeah, mostly because, but we did kind of have an exit plan. After about 6 months, it became clear that it was hard on my back and hard on my health to do as much lifting. So Mom went through some physical therapy where she was able to help herself set up better without me pulling on her, literally. And so that got better. But we did have that conversation then, maybe a year in, that when you get to where I can't lift you or I can't help you transfer or you can't transfer yourself, then something will probably have to change as far as us taking care of you. Because I couldn't do that. I couldn't do a full lift on her. And so her being able to transfer was kind of our trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny that that the idealistic part of it is family dinners and sitting around and watching the same TV show, but the reality of it is, how long will I be able to lift you up, right? Yeah. It's a very different conversation. And it's fun to talk about having dinner together. It's not so much fun to talk about what happens when you fall and I cannot help you and we have to call the big handsome fireman to come help us.
We didn't really mind that.
Yeah. Okay.
That was kind of okay. Neither one of us really minded that. And if Wanda happened to be there, she didn't mind either.
Okay, noted. My baby brother is a firefighter, and he says that he picks a lot of people up off the floor more than he puts out fires sometimes. So, anyway, all right, Cheryl, your mom is still very independent, but you've also walked with her through grief after losing your dad. So, what kind of changed through that season? What became apparent? What conversations did you have?
So, like I was saying earlier, my mom was very, very sad when my dad passed away. I was too, but they had been married for 59 years, so it was hard to lose him. You know, she was very sad, and actually just this year, it's been 2 years now, she's actually smiling again. She's happy again. You know, we're planning trips, and she's very excited about that. But as far as an exit plan, I told my mom, which everybody has to make their own decisions on this, but I told my mom that as long as I'm able, she will be with me. My mom's just a itty bitty little thing, and I'm not a little bitty thing, so I could easily lift her. I just, as far as an exit plan, we're still working on that one, but as far as I'm concerned, she'll be with me until she doesn't want to be with me anymore.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to let her make that decision. So.
Okay. Kim, you mentioned something during our prep call that stuck with me. You said that you have had to help mom build a life outside of your family, which we touched on before, but as she's retired, you guys are facing some changes coming up. So, tell us why that's so important to you and how you feel that affect and the ongoing conversation.
So for one reason why it's important, again, is we're all individuals and we're all in different stages of life. I work full-time. I have a farm. So I leave one full-time job to go home to another full-time job to also be the short order cook, to be the housekeeper. And so from that standpoint, there's times that, like, my mom goes with me to a ladies group, a church ladies group, and they have welcomed her in and she likes them. And of course, a lot of them are our neighbors. And when you live in a country, it's, everybody's really good friends. But sometimes, like when I go there, I don't have much time by myself or much time to choose to go do something with my girlfriends or somebody that, I just want to have a conversation with besides just on the phone in the 20 minutes to work. And so her having something like to make her own friends at that church ladies group, so I have the liberty to go sit with one of my friends and maybe even make lighthearted of something that's going on in the house without it hurting her feelings or without it hurting my family's feelings would be good. Also, I worry when anytime when somebody's social schedule slows down a lot, you're not going very far. So my mom doesn't handle the heat well, so in the summer she can't go outside and do a lot of outside things. And obviously in the winter, you worry about falling if it's slick. So I need for her to go and establish some outside things that she can go and do, because I need her to walk further, because we have this bath and this closet. So essentially to walk from her bedroom to her living room is the length of this stage. And so I think she'll tell you, there was a period of time, maybe last year, I think it was, her back started hurting her really bad. And I think a lot of it is, she didn't have anything to do. Colton wasn't home for the first, for that time. So she would just walk from the bedroom and she'd get up and go into the living room. But she was always sitting down or laying flat. So there wasn't a whole lot of circulation going on. So to keep her more mobile so that I can keep her in my home longer, I need for her to have that outside social skills and talk with friends, go have some lunch. I tried to encourage her a couple of years ago to the senior center in town, and she said, well, the food just isn't really good. And I'm like, it's not meant to be a 5-star dining restaurant. It's meant for you to go and see your friends. I think
maybe she could brown bag it.
She might.
Yeah,
she might need to do that. They have a much better cook now, so it's good. But I do think that is really important for you guys as you get older, just because the more you get out and about and you do have those conversations with people about things different than just your family, you're sharpening your mind, you're keeping your blood pumping, you're keeping mobile, you're staying in a better spot in mental health. And it also gives that loved one, the caregiver, a little bit of a break too.
Yeah, I will say too, if you are new to our seminar, back in January, we did one about being purposeful in aging, and we talked a lot about the importance of staying very active and importance of staying very, very social. So if you would like to revisit that one, it is on our YouTube channel, so you can definitely look that up. If you need any help finding it, Amy's going to love this, but you can send Amy a message and she'll send you the link, because she's my easy button. She will love that.
So I will say too, my grandma, in her caretaker situation, she was obviously widowed with 2 other widows, but even she needed some time, and so she lived in Houston, and so she had a group called H2U, which was a group that did different social projects. So they made blankets for the NICU. That was something she really enjoyed, because I had been in the NICU when I was born, and she had done things for me and appreciated what people had done for me. In addition to that, she went with her church on day trips, and we had a lady named Maydell who was just the sweetest lady. She came in and took care of both of my great granny's 2 sisters in their homes when they were individually in homes, and then my grandma, and so they would come in and fix a meal. So it just gave my grandma just a little bit of respite break, which is important.
Well, I want to have plenty of time for Q&A, so I want Cheryl to tell us real quick before we move on to the next thing. You said something important, and I think it's a great kind of circle back. You said that every feeling is valid. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So like everything, all the things that my mom has gone through, I mean, I try to take that into consideration. We do throw out grace a lot in our home. But my mom also realizes that about me. So she also throws out a lot of grace. So I feel like you have to, if my mom is sad one day, I tell her, Mom, it's okay to be sad. You be sad. I know you miss Dad. I miss Dad. It's okay. So, and then I tell her, but we're not going to stay in that state of sadness. We're going to be sad. We're going to talk about it, and then we're going to move on. And that has really helped with my mom, just to validate her feelings, but I also let her know really quickly we're not going to stay in that state of mind. We're going to move on. And it has really helped with her and how she's doing and all those things that she deals with daily. So
perfect. Well, I think if you can agree, I thought I had one more. I think if you could agree, this is a lot about conversations. Everything goes back to conversations. Everything goes back to priorities and what you want this season to look like. So is there anything else that we need to talk about real quick before we start doing questions? Is there anything that we need to say?
One thing a coworker of mine mentioned, so she is in I guess you'd say lateral generational home. She has her brother living with her who has some health needs. And she's recently started dating and is in a very serious relationship and is trying to navigate, how does this work with my brother? At the same time, one of the things we both talked about is that when there are issues, whether it be health or mental, there needs to be a discussion that those things have got to stay in check. So like if you have a medical condition, that you're going to go to the doctor and you're going to do what the doctor tells you to do. If you're having a mental or an emotional issue, that you're going to go and get help for that, because, I mean, it's just simply a chemical issue. It's not anything to do with a lack of personal strength or mental strength or anything of that nature. But that's a really big thing that you need to have addressed, is that if those things aren't kept in check, you can't expect the other person, and that goes for both caregiver and care recipient. Because just because I'm a caregiver doesn't mean I can't have some issues with those things too.
Yeah.
But we don't have to, the whole family cannot go through and sustain going through that because we're not willing to make that change. And then the other thing is she's a neat freak and he's not. And that happens with a lot of us. And so defining what you can do in your personal space versus what you can do in a shared joint living space.
Yep. Have the conversations. Okay. So you guys know my rules. If you have a question, raise your hand and wait for my mic runner to come to you. If you have a comment, catch me after the program because this space is for questions. So does anyone have any questions? Okay. Oh, thank you. All right, so Amy will hold on to the mic and then you say your question. Yep.
It seems like there should be a lot of these decisions, agreements in writing so that you make sure that you agree and you have an opportunity that you really discussed, and also to avoid that problem of somebody coming in and saying, oh, well, you're abusing the relationship you have. If it was in writing, that would have helped a lot. And plus, maybe made her sign for the chair or write a check or something, and you filled it out.
So I think the question is, did you guys write, did anybody put anything in agreement in writing?
I will answer, no, we have not. That
Okay.
is a good idea, though.
Okay.
That's why I suggested a trust. My cousin did that with his mom, and they had no problems like that.
Perfect. I thought I saw, oh, okay.
One thing I want to add to that, though, I think, like in my case, I was the only child, and so we didn't think about that necessarily as much. But in the line of what I do, one of the things that I want to say is I think it is extremely important that you have those things in place if you have other children who are not involved in that caretaking experience. Especially if you enter into a house financially together, there needs to be a discussion of either, like I bought a third of this house, and this being the parent, I bought a third of this house, and, for them taking care of me, then I'm going to gift them this portion of the house. Or I'm going to offset that with a life insurance policy or a savings account or some investment, because I always say this jokingly, but it's really true. Nobody ever fights over the funeral bill.
Right.
But everybody will fight over money more times than not.
Yeah.
So please do that
Yeah.
if you have other children. Make sure that you are clear with your kids what your intention is and how you feel about it, because you want your kids to get along when you're gone.
Well, it's true. That's so true. And that's something we talk about a lot. If you have plans made for the division of how things will go after you pass away, and it's very clear, then your children are not forced to make a decision while they're grieving for you. So I love that. All right, Christy, who you got? Yeah.
Do you think it would be better to, as a family, to make those moves before there are health or aging needs in place already having to be dealt with? Do you think it'd be a good idea? And everyone gets used to living together when everyone's more independent and able to, and not needing some of the health care or the emotional support that we need later in life when we're widowed or that kind of thing?
I think I would have done a lot better at having had a conversation with my mom about some of those tough things had we done that before I felt like she was already emotionally dumped on. That was, we are many, many years into this, and she will tell you that we've probably had the best conversations about this in the last 2 years. So it was like a marriage that, you're working out, figuring out who takes out the trash. So I think that is most certainly, if you don't move in together necessarily ahead of time, but most certainly try spending more time together, and then also having those conversations of what the space and the time needs to look like.
Well, and I think an answer to that too, if I may, is what we see a lot is that people, and this is true with senior communities as well. If you move into a senior community when you're at the point where you need tons and tons of support and you cannot really enjoy the community that you're living in, it changes that experience. I've also noticed that when people are living on their own for too long, they're kind of holding on to that and living in their home independently too long, lots of things start to happen. Health issues start to become more of an issue than they might have been had they been living somewhere else. Also, from the real estate agent standpoint, the deferred maintenance on the house and the cleanliness of the house goes downhill, where they could be living in a clean and safe environment for a lot longer. Did you have something else to add to that? Okay.
Can I?
Yeah.
So I would say it depends on you. So my mom didn't want to come too soon. We probably waited a little too long, but she wouldn't have wanted to live there. She probably wouldn't have wanted to live there when my son was there, because she wanted more of my attention than I could have given when my son was still at home.
Perfect.
And that was we left that up to her.
Cheryl, like when you talked about shared expenses, did you incorporate anything from your brother?
Well, that is a whole other conversation.
That's a different seminar.
So yes, it is. So my brother is amazing. I don't want you to think that he's not. He is, but I don't really know how. He's just not really. I don't know that I just don't think he's capable of being the nurturer or the carer or, yes, and being a part of my mom's daily life. So the answer is no. Yes. So no. He no.
Christy, what you got? Yeah.
I just have a practical question. If it seems stupid, I apologize. How do you all navigate laundry and cleaning? Because some people can be really particular how their laundry is handled. And
Okay. Well, okay, good. Well, I know that if my mother moved in with me, she would do the laundry because she's better. She's fantastic. All right. Kim, how do you, yeah, I figure let's just go down the road. Yeah.
So I still work full time, and my mom does all of the laundry. She cleans. And then when I get home, we share dinner time together. That's kind of our time together. And my husband is very excited that we share dinner time because I have become an excellent cook. And he is very excited about that. So she basically does the household things because she's there. And then we just kind of share dinner time.
Kim, how do you guys divide that up?
So on ours, the one thing I'm also going to say, and this holds true for both her and for me, is whatever your habits were before you moved in together are going to be your habits. And to expect somebody to change is probably unrealistic. That also took me a long time to realize. And so from our perspective, like I do the cooking, it's just something that I do. So I do the dishes because the dishwasher is in our portion of the house. But be helpful. Bring your dishes in from your portion of the house so that it's not, somebody's not running like the teenage kid, up one side and down to the other and getting all the bowls out from underneath the bed. Everybody's done that with their kids. Having said that, like laundry, my husband works split shifts. So he works 1 week, Thursday to Thursday, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and then he's off a week, and then 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, again, she's cognizant if it's a day that he is sleeping during the day, we don't do laundry. So we try to do that when he's gone. And then, if I'm going to be gone for a weekend, I say, hey, this is a great time for you to get caught up on your laundry. But you do have to be respectful. We both have dogs, and they shed. So, shake your clothes out before you get there. Just those common things to help make things last longer and work better. But we just kind of, right now she does her laundry, but at the point she can't, then I'll just pick that up too.
Yeah. And Carrie, your mom was not, she needed care. So she was not helping with laundry or cooking or anything.
Well, she couldn't see, so helping with cooking was no. Though she wanted to. We let her slice a tomato once, and she almost cut her finger, and it was like, okay, no, not even that. My husband does most of the housework.
Okay. And yeah. Oh, I love that.
One thing I will say though, my mom doesn't cook, but she will say every once in a while, especially if it's just her or I, or even like one time not very long ago, I was sick and she asked Colton, hey, do you want me to go to we have a really good cafe not very far away, and she's like, do you want me to run to County Line and get you a hamburger? Or she'll say, hey, how about let's go out and eat? And so, she does her version of cooking, and that's good. So, but
Yeah.
for the most part, like we individually do our stuff.
I just love that you guys seem to communicate really well about all of those things. Yeah. And again, another big thank you to our education partners. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful summer day.